No, it usually takes years for a case to make it all the way to the Supreme Court. So it's somewhat stunning that the new abortion law in Texas is going to be heard tomorrow. Senate Bill 8 just took effect on September 1st. Teresa Woodard traveled to Washington and is live outside the Supreme Court. There's a lot at stake here, Teresa.
Chris, there absolutely is. People on all sides of this issue say this is the beginning of a major debate about what abortion rights should look like, not just in Texas, but all across America. This started in Austin, but it's made its way to D.C.
In a city ruled by partisanship, there's still reverence for these nonpartisan grounds. And in hours, one of the nation's most respected institutions will debate one of Texas's most controversial actions. One side claims it saves lives.
We estimate that between 50 to 100 lives, 50 to 100 babies are being saved every single day because of the Texas Heartbeat Act.
The other says it hurts women.
And there are going to be folks who are totally going to be forced to carry pregnancies for longer than they'd like to because of our anti-abortion extremist politicians wanting to play games with people's lives instead of doing the work that actually would support Texans.
Texas banned abortion at about 6 weeks by giving private citizens anywhere the right to sue anyone who helps a woman get an abortion after cardiac activity is detected. The Supreme Court will hear two cases Monday. First, at 9 a.m. Central, abortion providers suing Texas will argue the law is unconstitutional. Then, at 10 a.m., the federal government will argue it has a right to sue Texas to stop the law. In both cases, Texas attorneys will argue the law is so cleverly written, there's actually no one to sue.
This is a case that DOJ did not have to bring. This is not an area where it's typically the federal government who's the plaintiff. And yet I think that this was a case where the principle was too important to fight for wholly apart from the politics.
Roe versus Wade itself is not on the docket. But with Texas's law at center stage, almost 50 years of abortion rights are.
All right, I want to break a few things down for you now in regards to the impact that this law has already had. In September, when the law was enacted, researchers found the number of legal abortions in our state dropped by 50% from 1 year before. The Texas Policy Evaluation Project says in 2020, there were just over 4,300 abortions in Texas in September. This year, there were about 2,100. Another important factor at play is the current makeup of the U.S. Supreme Court. There are 3 women and 6 men on the court. It's the same split when it comes to where the justices lean. 3 more liberal, 6 lean conservative. But remember, when the justices voted to deny the emergency appeal to block this law as it first went into effect, the vote was 5-4. Chief Justice John Roberts joined the court's 3 liberal judges in saying the law should have been blocked. He wrote that Texas essentially delegated enforcement to the populace at large. Now, what does this law actually ban? Almost all abortions, including cases of rape and incest. There are no exceptions for non-viable pregnancies where the fetus still has some cardiac activity, no exception for a fetus with a deadly or untreatable condition. Abortions in the case of medical emergencies are allowed, but doctors have to decide whether their patient qualifies, and they could still be sued for their role in one of those procedures. Now, one final thing I want to point out, Chris, Washington, D.C. is clearly very used to protest, but you see this temporary fencing that's up behind me. This stretches all the way around the property of the United States Supreme Court, and people who live here, work here, walk by here all the time tell me they've never seen it look like this.